So, what is the topic for the day? Well, it is this: know why you're saying yes. Know why you are saying yes. All right. Here's the deal. It's really, really cool when you have kind of a sort of a thermostat inside, kind of like when or a compass or whatever you call it. You got that meter inside that goes off when something's wrong, it starts to beep or a red light goes off or something like that. Well, you have one of those. Did you know that? You have one of those in all of the various kind of wirings that go into, let's call it your chooser self, your volitional self. You hear the phrase sometimes, when you have an act of your will, when you will something, when you make a choice to go right versus left or left versus right, and when we exercise our agency of being in control. That is a very, very important part of being human. It's what kind of guides where we end up, right? You come to a fork in the road, you choose. You go right or left. Well, you're going to end up somewhere. Now, because you are wired to have this agency, this human agency, which is part of being created in the image of God, that you can consider options and do things that are non-instinctual. Now think about that. You look at that animal kingdom, pretty much, operating according to what they're wired to do for the most part. But to sit above those instincts and sit above a myriad of feelings and sit above a myriad of dynamics and conflicts, and then choose, which way do I want to go? What do I want to say yes to? What do I want to say no to? That's something that pretty much humans do, to consider and weigh things and judge things and apply wisdom and values and threats and outcomes and risk management and all that kind of stuff. So you are wired to be able to do this. Now you're also wired, there's a button inside that's going to go off if you're kind of feeling some sort of pressure to make a choice that you really don't feel good about making. Said another way, it's kind of against your will that you're willing to do it. Now think about that. I'm not really willing to do this, and I'm doing it. I'm willing it, but I'm not willing. Sounds like a divided person, right? Well, it is. Now, this doesn't mean that we like to do everything that we will to do. We want to do some things in life that we don't want to do. You never get anywhere if you don't do that. I mean, you want to get a paycheck, right? But you don't want to get out of bed some mornings. You were up too late. You don't want to get up and go to work. But you want to get up and go to work because you want the paycheck, even though you don't want to get up and go to work. So I'm not talking about willing against things that you want. One of my favorite verses says that when Jesus died, when he was crucified, it says, for the joy set before him, he willingly endured the shame and the pain of, the cross. It's like, and he said, I don't want to do this when he was going to get crucified, but not my will, but thine. And so he did want to do it in the big sense. He just didn't want to go through the pain, but he wanted to go through the pain because he wanted the outcome. If you're going to accomplish anything in life, I guarantee you that's going to be the formula. You've got to be willing to do some things you don't really want to do because of something you really want to do. And that's a good thing. But here's the bad side. The bad side is when that button goes off and it doesn't say, I don't want to do this, but I really want what it'll do for me. So I am going to do it. So I guess I really want to do it. Like get up and exercise or something. No, that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is when you don't want to do something and you do it anyway. Now, how can we know that we're making a choice that's kind of against our will? Well, basically, here's the thermostat. Here's the little test that the Bible gives us, one of many places where this concept is referred to. But it's out of 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7. And it's talking about giving. In this instance, he's talking about giving money, but it applies to all of giving your time, giving yourself, giving your resources, giving your money, giving your talents, giving your body, whatever it is. Here's what it says. Give as you have purposed in your heart, not begrudgingly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And we'll say it again. Give as you have purposed in your heart, not begrudgingly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. Okay, so there's 4 words there that are very important. Purpose, actually we could say 5. Purposed in your heart, that's 2. Not begrudgingly is 3, or under compulsion, which is 4. Cheerful is 5. So that's what makes up this thermostat. How do you know? Well, first of all, are you saying yes to this person because that is truly your purpose? It's what you want. It's what you've decided. It's what you put above as a priority. Other things that intentionality is a good way to think about purpose. I intentionally want to serve this person in this way. I intentionally want to spend this amount of time in pursuit of this goal, or in pursuit of this service project, or in pursuit of this relationship. I intend, I want to, I plan, I live for it. Give as you have purposed intentionally. I'm going to wake up in the morning and say, today I intend to go over to Sally's and volunteer my day to clean out her garage or whatever it is. See, that's purposeful giving. Like I said before, when they said for the joy set before him, he endured. See, he had a plan to do this. He came to earth with the plan to give in a way that was going to be painful, but it was intentional. Somebody decides to have a child. There's intentionality to serve that little human, because you're not going to come out the other end 18, 20 years later with a healthy one if you don't intentionally, proactively give and serve. Same thing with a marriage or a relationship. So the first part of the little thermostat inside of when we say yes is, do I really want to do this on purpose? This is me deciding. And where am I deciding? Give as you have purposed where? In your heart, it says. That's the second word. So that means deep inside, this matters to me. I'm giving to things that are heartfelt, not for any other stupid reason. I remember a young man came up to me one night after I spoke at a university. And he said, yeah, I really enjoyed that. And I said, oh, great. And he said, yeah, I enjoyed it because I want to do what you do. And I said, well, what is that? And he said, well, I want to go to medical school and become a psychiatrist and write books and, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, that's a great goal. How'd you get into that? And then he goes into this litany of, well, I come from 3 generations of doctors and our family is blah, 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 blah. And it was all of this, like, somehow he thought that all that stuff had some sort of like status to it that was, I don't know, it just felt gross. And I remember I was listening to all this, how important he would feel like he would be. You kind of had to be there, but you know what I'm talking about. It's sort of like, nose up. And I remember thinking, well, Finley, hush. Sorry, my dog is letting me know that there are humans on the planet. I remember thinking, if you do become a doctor, make sure I know where you're practicing because I don't want to send anybody I care about to you. I mean, it was just, but he was going to give the next 8 years of his life to this because this is a big, got to give myself to pursue a goal like that. You do, it's hard. So anyway, he walks off. A few minutes later, another young man walked up to me and said, oh, I really enjoyed that because, this is what I want to do. And I said, really? Tell me more about that because I was kind of ready now, right? And I said, why do you want to do it? And he said, well, it's so interesting. He said, I always, I just loved like, started with youth ministry, working with kids and volunteering when I was in like even junior high. I'd volunteer with little kids at church, and I loved working with kids and people. And then I got into high school and I started doing more. And I always thought I wanted to be a pastor. I wanted to go into some kind of ministry work. And I said, well, that's great. So then what happened? He said, then I took biology and I fell in love with like biology and the sciences. And I was reading sciences and everything I could find and everything I could read. And it was just, incredible. And then I was at a quandary because I thought maybe I wanted to pursue something in the sciences, like go to medical school. But then I wanted to be in ministry. And then I kept kind of thinking about that. And then I realized, wait a minute, if I went into psychiatry or psychology, that's a lot of science. And you get to work with people and help people in their lives. And that got so exciting to me. So now I'm pre-med and I can't wait. And I'm going to go to medical school and I'm taking some theology courses and I'm so excited. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, let me know your number because I want to send people to you because you are the real deal. See, that was coming from his heart. Wasn't coming from ego, wasn't coming from trying to accomplish something or make a good living or whatever the other, because his father wanted him to be this or whatever, like the first young man. So give your money, your time, your energy, your talents, your path, your life. Give as you have purposed in your heart, coming from deep inside. Now we get into the rest of the little thermostat. Give as you purposed in your heart. And then it says, not begrudgingly, nor under compulsion. Begrudgingly or under compulsion. So when would you say yes to doing something or to writing a check or to giving your time or whatever? Sometimes it's not because you intend to, it's because there's pressure being put on you. And you're not giving, you're giving in to the pressure, and then we hold a grudge, begrudgingly. Yeah, I did it begrudgingly. I didn't want to do it, but they made me, or my dad wanted me to, or somebody put a guilt trip on me. So I gave them money or I gave them my time. Excuse me. I got a scratchy throat here. But we hold a grudge. And see, that little button inside feels a conflict. And it's begrudging because you're not giving, you're giving into pressure, peer pressure, relationship pressure, whatever. Now, that doesn't mean people can't convince us. But when they convince us, then we change our minds. So that's okay if it's intentional. Excuse me, I'm going to have to cough again. I've got something caught in my throat. So that's the begrudging part when we give into pressure. Now, that's not the only word it uses, though. It says, give in your as you purpose in your heart, not begrudgingly, nor under compulsion. What is a compulsion? It means I don't have a choice because I've got internal pressure. Nobody's putting pressure on me. I got a voice in my head that won't let me not do it. The voice says, well, you're selfish if you say no, or you're bad, or you don't love somebody, or something. I should, I ought to. That's not free giving. That's giving into a compulsion. It's like, if somebody has an obsessive compulsive disorder because of the compulsion, they're not free to not wash their hands. They have to. They feel compelled to. So how free are you to say no? That'll let you know how valuable your yes is. Whether or not you feel like you have a choice without being bad. And then the last word, cheerful. For God loves a cheerful giver. Isn't that a cool verse? See, if it's coming from my heart and it's intentional, and I'm not giving into pressure and I'm not giving into some should internally, I'm going to be cheerful. This is going to be fun to give this present. It's going to be fun to leave that tip. It's going to be fun to open that door for somebody. It's going to be fun to go volunteer to clean out their garage. It's going to be fun to take that next pro bono case. It's going to be fun to give away a fortune for some people. If it's coming from our heart and it's intentional and it's not begrudging or under compulsion, it will be fun. Because we know this about giving, that the happiest people on earth, research shows, back to the science. Isn't it funny how science and the Bible agree? What does the Bible say? Remember we quoted Jesus? He has said that it is more blessed to give than to receive. You know what the science tells us? That when they do the research, the happiest people on earth are givers. That's one of the factors that loads on being a happy person, how much you give. You know, the same pleasure centers light up in the brain when you give. Same pleasure centers. When you write a check to a charity, for example, the brain lights up in the same pleasure centers as when you're eating good food or having sex. Some of you are going, okay, how can I find a way to give money to a charity while I'm having sex, while I'm eating pizza? If I could do all three at once, oh my gosh, that would take me over the moon, right? Well, probably. Giving is a good thing, and the science shows that. So, little thought for the day. That's one of my favorite verses. Give as you have purposed in your heart. Don't give begrudgingly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver.